Hi and welcome to Omni Edition Garden City. I'm Dan York. With me is Allyson Bettis. She is Garden City's City Clerk Treasurer, and we want to talk about the city's bond rating. Our rating recently went up, is that correct?
Yes, it did. I'm pleased to announce that Standard & Poor's, which rates us every 2 to 3 years, gave us a A+ rating, up from an A rating, and that's very exciting news. And it's just a sign of the positive things that are happening here in the city.
Okay, so give people a little bit of perspective. You go from A to A+. What kind of impact does that have on the community?
The impact is subtle. It's one of the things that it does is that it allows us to bond further at lower rates. It's very much equivalent to a homeowner's FICO score. If you have a better score, the rate that you get for debt is cheaper.
Okay.
And so that's why it's a positive thing for the city.
I guess what kind of a percentage difference would it be from A to A+?
That's hard to measure. One of the things that it considers is how much you're going to be financing, how long a term period you're going to be financing, but generally we can see about a 10% decrease.
Well, that's pretty significant. And when we talk about bonds, what would the city of Garden City sell bonds for?
It can be for a number of things, but typically they are capital projects. The bonds that we have now, one for the streetscape downtown that we did in '98. One is for some capital projects that we did with the water and sewer program. And so generally it's large-scale capital needs.
Okay. And since you've been here in Garden City, how low has our bond rating ever been?
I think we've gone down to an A- is what my memory says.
Okay. So always a good credit rating, but
Absolutely.
now a better credit rating.
Absolutely.
And can you go up from an A+? Because I think you can, right?
You certainly can. You can go to a AAA, and that would be outstanding. And that's probably something that we're not going to see unless our entire community economic structure changes.
Okay.
But we can certainly go up to a AA rating, and it just depends on how much debt we have, how strong our revenue streams are, and those type of things.
And I think you mentioned that Standard & Poor's, they're the folks that do the rating system, at least for us?
They definitely do it for us. There are other rating industry raters, Moody's, Finch. However, Standard & Poor's is generally the one that does it for municipalities and other government groups.
Okay. And how often do they do it?
The last one we had was in 2014, so they're not particularly regular, but about 2 to 3 years.
Do they do everyone at the same time, or if our situation were to improve dramatically, would they change our rating midstream?
They would change it midstream if it improved strikingly.
Right.
It'd have to be significant, or if, God forbid, it was negatively impacted.
Okay. And how, I mean, you use the letter A, so is it like a school grading scale? Is it A, B, C, D, E?
It is, but it never gets down to, if you've got a B or a C rated bond, you're in trouble.
Okay.
So they don't want to give a lot of debt out to that, and it never goes below a C.
And the premise is that when we do a major project, we hire someone then to sell bonds on our behalf, I assume. Is that how it works?
Yes, they help us market the bonds, and we say to bond consumers, hi, we'd like to finance a project. It's no different than going to the bank. And there are some tax advantages of municipal bonds because they have some tax exemption attributes that people enjoy. And so that's one of the things. They're fairly trustworthy, depending on the city, of course, and the rating of that city. But that's what the market is, and so we shop them around generally.
Okay. So do we have any projects on the horizon that we know that we're going to sell bonds for that will benefit from this increase?
Not in the immediate near future. My nature is more conservative, so I think the less debt, the better. But, you know, there are things that we could do debt for. If we wanted to do a significant road overhaul, we could debt for that. If we wanted to change our, do a capital project for all of our buildings, we could sell bonds for that.
Okay.
But right now, I'm not aware of any that the council is interested in doing. We'll see.
And that's a vote of the city council that allows us to go out to bond, not necessarily a vote of the entire population, correct?
It depends on the type of bond, but generally, yes, that's the city council. There are always, though, public hearings to make sure that no one objects to us floating those bonds. And there's an opportunity for the public to object. And if the objection is significant, then council has to adhere to that.
And how do we rank compared to some of the communities around us?
I did not check that, I have to admit. I just worry about ours.
And ours has always been decent, right?
It's been decent, and it's not, going from an A to A plus is significant, and so it's hard to do. You know, you can stay at one level for a very, very long time, but I'm so very pleased that we've shown the kind of management and things that Standard & Poor's looks for. One of the things that they indicated and the things that make us think that we're going in the right direction, they indicate that we have strong budgetary performance. So when we budget for a balanced budget and then come in with a surplus, then they say, okay, we like that. If we have a significant rainy day fund, or what we call our fund balance, they like that. They like to see it at the minimum at 10 to 12%, and if ours is 25%, that's something that they think is positive. And it's very similar to your own personal finances. If you have a lot of debt, a lot of credit cards, a high mortgage, then your credit rating suffers. And so as our debt rolls off, and as our finances get better, it makes a difference in our credit rating.
And those decisions about, say, fund balance, those are one of the topics that will be discussed at the budget workshops that we're currently already in the middle of, right?
We're getting started with next year's budget already. It seems like a never-ending circle. So yes, it comes at a good time. We want to keep doing the things that make us a enviable financial place.
And July 1st is when our budget year begins. So when we talk about next year to us is the 17-18 budget, correct?
Correct, starting July 1st, as you said.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on and explaining this. And I'm sure it's good news, especially for your department, but really it's good news for the entire community.
It really is a team effort. I'd love to take credit for it, but I'm only one of the cogs that makes sure this happens. It's the management of both council and our departments and our administrative team.
Okay.
It is really a good collaboration, and frankly, the citizens who support those things.
All right. Well, very good. Allyson Bettis, our city clerk treasurer, thank you very much for stopping by to talk about this, and good luck in the future.
Always a pleasure.
All right. That's this special edition of Omni Edition Garden City. I'm Dan York. Thanks very much for watching, and good night, everybody.